The morning sun hit the surface of Willow Creek Lake like a spotlight, and I was already out there, standing on my family's shoreline, staring at a $7 million floating cabin that didn't belong. It wasn't just the cabin, a sprawling, polished thing that screamed money, but the dock, too. A heavy platform spiked into the water like it owned the place. My name's Ethan, and this lake, tucked in the quiet hills of northern Michigan, has been in my family since my great-grandfather carved his initials into the old oak by the shore. That was 1948. Now, on a crisp October morning in 2024, I'm facing off with Clara, the HOA president, who's waving a laminated badge like it's a court order and yelling, "Get off my platform, Ethan, or I'll fine you into next year." Her voice cut through the mist, sharp as a blade, while she stood on a dock she'd built without a single permit, right where my family's property line runs. I couldn't believe it. This wasn't just a neighborly spat, this was Clara, clipboard in hand, acting like she'd been crowned queen of my water. The cabin floated smugly, its windows catching the light like it was posing for a brochure, while Clara's words hung in the air, daring me to push back. "This is my lake," I said, voice steady but heat rising behind my ears. "That dock's sitting where my great-grandfather set the boundary." She smirked, the kind of smile that feels like a warning shot, and raised her phone like a judge's gavel. "The community will decide," she said, as if a vote could rewrite a deed. I looked at the water, rippling quietly under the boards, and muttered, "The lake decides first." The planks creaked under my boots, and I swear I felt the weight of something heavier than wood. A faint knock echoed from below, like the lake was clearing its throat. I knelt, running my fingers along the dock's edge. Fresh sawdust stuck to the grain, and 3 thick lag bolts gleamed, sunk into a brace that hadn't been there last week. A steel bracket, solid as a vault, held the corner, and a gray conduit hummed faintly, warm to the touch, like it was feeding a house, not a temporary research platform, as Clara claimed. "Temporary," she said, but the setup screamed permanence, braced like it was ready for a Michigan winter, wired like it planned to stay through spring. A worker's skiff idled nearby, its engine coughing. One of the crew tugged a rope caught on something under the dock, a welded ring, slick with algae, bolted to a plate that didn't appear on any plan I'd seen. He shot me a look, and I nodded back. We both knew it wasn't a mooring. It was a hazard. I pulled a GPS from my pack, set an orange flag where the beam met the water, and slid a painted yardstick between the posts. The tip kissed mud, and I jotted the depth in my notebook. Clara watched, her smile tightening, but I didn't argue. I measured, marked, and let the lake hold the silence. "This is a community project, Ethan," she said, stepping closer, her tone soft but barbed. "We want it done without drama. We value consistency here." I met her eyes. "I'm consistent, too, especially with property lines." She tilted her head, like I'd missed a memo, and waved a folder. "Courtesy notice was posted yesterday." I glanced at the shore, where a cluster of signs advertised lost dogs and bake sales, but nothing bore an agency stamp. I filmed it all, slow and deliberate. "Permits are proof," I said. "Facts are simple." She snapped that fines escalate when owners ignore requests. The lake stayed quiet, but the dock's boards ticked under my feet, like they were whispering secrets. By noon, Clara had turned the shore into a stage. Banners screamed, "Eco Research Cabin, $7 million community pride." A speaker looped soft music, and Clara, in a forest green blazer, smiled for cameras like a talk show host. Neighbors clapped, drawn to the word legacy. I stood by the posts, feeling the planks breathe, and watched the waterline. A steel bracket hid in the shadows, carrying a load no temporary project needs. A lawyer read from crisp letterhead about lawn rules and dock safety, slipping in a line about fines for disrupting community progress. Heads nodded. I didn't. I snapped a photo of the bracket, the cones marking a tight boat lane, and the warm conduit snaking into the cabin. Data doesn't shout, it waits. That night, under a sky dark as ink, I slipped back to the dock. The cabin's windows were black, but a beam swept the water in a lazy rhythm. 12 seconds, pause, 10 seconds, pause. I timed my steps to its gaps, crouching low. Under the gangway, I found a chain, taut and new, running to a buried block. A plastic sheet, pinned tight, funneled the current into a sharp choke point. From shore, it looked natural. Up close, it was a trap. I set a small camera, lens kissing the water, and filmed the chains hum, the sheets shimmer, the timestamp glowing steady. A shadow moved in the cabin, quick and lean. Clara's silhouette, maybe, pacing with a phone. I let doubt sit with me. Pride wanted to yell. Discipline kept my knees on the planks. I marked a chalk line on a piling, noting the tide's drop, and tucked reflective tape where only a lens would see. The lake snitched on what didn't belong, and I let it talk. Morning brought props: a wooden frame on the sandbar, plastic blades posing as seagrass, labeled a restoration plot. It looked noble from a distance, flimsy up close. A volunteer waved me off, calling it sensitive. I pointed to the cone line pinching the boat lane and asked what was more fragile, fake grass or a narrowed channel. He stayed silent. Clara arrived, clipboard gleaming, praising stewardship. I asked for the permit number. She deflected, promising follow-up. I sketched the hidden chain, the plastic river, the decoy frame pieces of a plan dressed as virtue. A skiff hit wake near the frame, its pilot cursing as he nearly tipped. Clara glared at me, as if I'd willed the water to shove him. Phones rose, neighbors whispered, and my jaw clenched. I wrote angles and times instead of arguing. Facts don't spill like tempers. At the marina, I filed a drift hazard notice. Unsecured raft, hidden plates, plastic sheets squeezing flow, decoy frame blocking the exit. I stapled photos and coordinates, reading tide state slow. The clerk stamped it, received, the sound like a gavel wrapped in velvet. My friend Nate slid me an insurance certificate, hazard exclusion bold as a warning sign. It's like car insurance, he said. Take the wrong ramp, you don't get paid. I saved it, my pulse steadying. Back at the lake, I staked orange flags to mark a safe corridor. A patrol boat idled, its officer eyeing the pinch. My cousin Lila tugged my sleeve, urging me to eat, saying this wasn't my job. Work changes shape, I told her. The lake taught me to see what's hidden. Clara cornered me as the crowd thinned. Be reasonable, Ethan. Stand down, and this stays smooth. Her voice was honey over steel. Show me the permit, I said. Some details need light. She promised escalation. I promised receipts. At the county desk, a clerk logged my video of the kayak weaving through the choke point. Lena Carter, from the shoreline office, sent a classification tool, dead load into land, utility draw, channel narrowing. 3 yes meant abatement review. I checked them all, my hands steady, and filed the packet with photos, notes, and the kayak clip. The lake waited, flat as glass, mean as a mirror. By dusk, I was back with a saw, Nate at my side. We marked illegal splices with chalk XS, cut them slow, and let the braces sigh in relief. The plastic sheet came up like a stubborn bandage, rolled tight, and strapped down. Clara shouted about sabotage, but the patrol officer barked back, and the crowd froze. I pointed to the insurance certificate, its hazard exclusion glowing on Nate's phone. The raft shifted, edging toward the flagged corridor. We set buoys, guiding it past the pinch. A kid spun his paddle, cheering silently. Clara ranted about donors and optics. Water prefers open, I said. The lake agreed, its current easing. At the breakwater, the pickup crew caught the raft, their line clean and true. I photographed every hand, every knot, and took the collection receipt. The channel looked like itself again, honest, open. Lena walked the site next morning, matching my photos to tide marks. She built the report, fixed structure, abatement executed, channel clear. No speeches, just ink. At the board meeting, Clara called it a misunderstanding. I laid out the packet, receipt on top. The insurer denied coverage. The bond carrier named terms. Clara was voted out, her legacy unraveling. The contractor, Vince, pulled the last anchors, set public mooring posts, and funded a youth sailing program. He didn't ask for thanks. I didn't give it. The lake settled, flags folded, kids fishing from the bank. A neighbor, once calling me stubborn, thanked me after his son nearly tipped in the pinch. The county withdrew warnings, and I painted a fresh benchmark by the oak. Nate said numbers became his shield. Their mercy, he added, laughing. The lake breathed quiet, cedar and rope in the air. Justice wasn't metal, it was water remembering its shape. So what would you have done? Would you cut the braces or wait, hoping the tide would choose? Should I have shouted louder or trusted the lake's silence? Was Clara a villain or just lost in her own story? Drop a comment, hit that like, and subscribe if you're ready for more. Keep your waters clear and your receipts louder.